is Rick Halpern. I'm with Radiant Images, and we're here at Cinegear Los Angeles to talk to you a little bit about some of the technologies that Radiant Images have been developing, primarily our Novo technology. This is the world's smallest digital cinema camera. It's so small that it's actually living in my pocket right now. It's what we call the Novo camera. It is a high-definition digital camera that you can put interchangeable lenses on. Unlike the other small digital cameras that exist in the market that have fixed lenses, this allows you to interchange your lenses and still use the full potential of the sensor to give you the highest resolution possible. You can go at 24 frames a second, which is regular recording speed for filmmaking. You can get a resolution of up to 2.7K. As I mentioned, it has interchangeable lenses. Again, lens that's in my pocket. You just screw it on. It's got a C-mount lens. So you just screw these guys on, and it actually has a back focus ring. The reason that is so useful is because by having a back focus adjustment, you can pull focus tremendously close to the lens. I can literally put my finger on the lens and we can still get an in-focus shot. Primary use for these lenses is situations where you cannot use a larger camera like the Alexas or the Epics or anything to that extent in environments where you need to have a very small footprint, or in a situation where you want to hide a camera, you don't want to draw attention to the camera, but it still gives you full focus capability so you can pull focus. It's a very small sensor, so therefore your depth of field is tremendously maximized. But when you get close, you still have to be able to rack focus of your lens, and this does allow you to do so. Another camera that we have that we're showing today is what's called the Novo 2K. This is a 2K uncompressed camera with the same features, same lens. However, you'll see that in this configuration it is set up in a helmet mount. The reason that we have it in this situation is because this is used a lot in movies or storytelling that you want to enable what we call a POV shot, point of view shot. And therefore the person who is viewing you is actually telling you the point of view of their story. One of the things that you'll notice about this is that it has a helmet that it compresses and conforms to the actor's, or in this situation the cinematographer's head, and it has what we call a tack-on. This is a very small, high-quality monitor that lives in front of the eye of the cinematographer or the operator, so that they can maintain frame of whatever the camera is seeing. You'll notice the positioning of the camera is right about chin level. After doing a lot of extensive experimentations with POV shots, we've realized that the best point of placement of a camera for POV is right about chin. In the past, people have tried it on top of their heads, on the side, and when the actor is interacting with that person wearing it, it doesn't look real. So one of the things that if you put it on the chin, it more accurately mimics the intake of a human being who is out on a field. Our natural instincts and the way our body is configured is to be aware of our surroundings on the ground. That's where the danger lurks. Whereas we don't have to worry that much about attacks from above, right? So when you put your camera up here, you're actually seeing too much sky and not enough ground. So by putting it a little bit lower, it actually gives a more natural feeling of someone interacting with the actor. We just finished doing a film called Rand and Stop, which this is exactly the situation that they used. And the whole entire movie was done from a POV perspective. So this is the exact configuration that they used on that movie. The camera that you see here does not actually have an internal recorder. If we were to spin this dummy around, you would see that there is a recording mechanism called a cine deck that lives on a backpack. And this allows this camera to record a 2K completely uncompressed image. So it's very large file sizes that allow you to have a lot of dynamic range, especially in post-production, if you're going from a very bright environment to a very dark environment. And you can still pull out information in the shadows and not blow out in the highlights. We also have a very small motor that attaches to the gear of the lens so that you can actually rack focus in the middle of a shot our eye naturally lacks focus. We don't notice it because our brain processes the information so fast. But if I were to look far away and then look close up, I have to be able to focus very quickly to both environments. By putting a small motor on here, someone else off to the side can actually be changing the focus of the lens and give you the opportunity to find where you want the focus to be. You might want to pull focus, you might want your focus to be far away, even though your subject is close up, or vice versa. And therefore it gives freedom to the creative side as far as where you exactly want your focus to be. We've also developed other technologies where you can place this camera on a stabilized system or on a pistol grip. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve for the shot that is asked of. Another thing that's important to point out about the Novo camera is the variable frame rates that it has. You can go up to as high as 4K resolution on this camera, but you are limited to a 12 frame rate, 12 frames per second film rate. You can also go down to 24 frames a second, and then you're at 2.7K. You can go to 1080, which is a high res, and that you're at 60 frames a second. And you can even go up all the way to 120 frames a second, and you're at 720 resolution. So you have different resolutions options depending on what your frame rate is limited to. The native ASA of the Novo camera is 600 ASA, and it's got a dynamic range of about 12 stops. So that's 6 stops up from exposure and 6 stops down from exposure. So you can really get into the shadows and still maintain your highlights without them blowing out. You have 2 connectors. You have a USB as well as a micro HDMI. The HDMI will give you 1080 out. The USB will either give you standard def out as well as feeding power into the camera. On the other side, we have a micro SD card. This is the recording mechanism, the medium that will go into the card. And again, you can record 24 frames a second at 2.7K, 12 frames a second at 4K, 1080 at 60 frames, and 720 at 120 frames. Back here, you can either put a battery backpack or an LCD touchscreen to both view what the camera's seeing as well as control the interface of the camera. You also have quarter 20 mounts on both the front, on the bottom, as well as the front for mounting purposes. Either a place to mount the camera or to put accessories to then run to the lens for follow focus capabilities. And you can also put different filters on the lens. Okay? So depending on the filter size, you can just put step-up rings to achieve that. And this is the Cine deck, which is attached to the backpack of the dummy. So the gentleman or the young lady wearing the helmet and the camera would also be putting on a backpack that is attached to the recording mechanism. This uses solid-state technology as well to record. You have a monitor in the back that again gives you the image of what the camera's seeing, but as well it's a touch screen so that whoever is being the operator or the technician can dial in the different needs and wants of that particular shot, whether it be frame rate, resolution, so forth and so on. These are LEMO connectors, so you just simply pull them out. And they go where they pretty much, it's dummy proof. They can't go into the wrong spot. You have one for the tactile, you have one for the camera, and then you have one for power. As far as where this technology is going, I think that we're still very much in the infancy, believe it or not, of digital technology. When we were using film cameras, we had to lug around large magazines, and we were limited to the size of the film. We were limited to the size of the gears. We were limited to still needing space in between the gates and the movements of the cameras. There was only so small you can make a film camera as a result of actually having film. However, when we're dealing with digital technology, it's only going to get smaller, it's only going to get lighter, it's only going to get higher resolution, it's only going to become more affordable, and it's only going to consume less and less energy. So everything that you're seeing now is still very much, in my opinion, at the forefront of where this is eventually going to go. We spent 100 years developing film cameras and film lenses, and if you look at where the film camera started and where they ended, it's complete night and day. Well, we're only a few years into the actual true development of cinema quality digital cameras. So if you project what it's going to be like in 100 years, I think that none of us can really anticipate where it's going to go. But at one point in time, I can't anticipate how many years it is going to be, but we are going to be able to have cameras of this size, if not smaller, tremendously smaller, that are going to be used as your primary cameras on the largest scale film production. Right now, these cameras are being used as secondary and third cameras and specialized cameras. But given a few years, a little bit more development, change of technology, you are going to see all the cameras just start getting smaller and smaller. The crews are going to get smaller. The footprint that an actual film is going to incorporate is going to be smaller. We're not going to be using hazardous materials to make our batteries. The elements that go into the making of lenses are going to be very different. The construction of the cameras are going to be different. And you're going to probably be able to use one camera for high speed, regular speed, underwater, aerial shots, 3D, you name it. We really haven't even come close to touching where this is all going. It's advancing very quickly right now, faster than any film technology ever has before. So it's a very exciting time to be a filmmaker, especially for young folks right now that are just starting to get their hands on this technology. I think that sooner or later, and actually it's happening now, it's not just a question of the filmmakers coming to us and saying, you know what, I would really like this technology for my next film. It's also us showing, well, now this exists. And now they say, well, you know what, now I can write a different scene or a different way of telling the story as a result of the technology that is available. So a great synergy is taking place between the creative sides and the manufacturing sides as to what is being asked of both manufacturers and the creative side. Again, we have it available at Radiant Images. We developed this camera. It's been used on Need for Speed. They actually destroyed 2 of them in putting them inside cars that experience a lot of damage. Ron Howard just used it on his Heart of the Sea underwater film that took place in a submarine. Matthew Libatique just finished using it also on a film about Pele, about the football player Pele, where we actually used it on a stabilized system and he was running around on a football field chasing soccer players and soccer balls. So we find that it's not necessarily used as a primary camera, but it is used for very specific shots where you cannot utilize the larger sensor cameras, or in a situation where you're going to be in a very precarious situation that you don't want to damage a very large, expensive camera with much larger lenses. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining us.
For more information, please visit our website at www.digitalcinemacourse.com.